The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to the Lord.
A man named John was sent from God. He came for testimony to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to testify to the light. And this is the testimony of John. When the Jews from Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to him to ask him, "Who are you?" he admitted and did not deny it, but admitted, "I am not the Christ." So they asked him, "Who are you then? Are you Elijah?" And he said, "I am not." "Are you a prophet?" He answered, "No." So they said to him, "Who are you? So we can give an answer to those who sent us. What do you have to say for yourself?" He said, "I am the voice of one crying out in the desert, 'Make straight the way of the Lord,' as Isaiah the prophet said." Some Pharisees were also sent. They asked him, "Why then do you baptize if you are not the Christ, or Elijah, or a prophet?" John answered them, "I baptize with water, but there is one among you whom you do not recognize, the one who is coming after me, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to untie." This happened in Bethany across the Jordan, where John was baptizing. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
It's good to see you. Good to see you today. I think we've all had the experience of planning a journey and having hopes and expectations. We've all probably looked at brochures, planning for a trip, and we have an idea in our minds as to what this place is going to be like, what the beach is going to be like, or what the activities will be like, and it's usually pretty positive and a pretty good picture. So I think, be it a spiritual journey, be it a relationship journey, be it the journey of Lent, it's all about hopes and expectations, dreams and hopes, an idea of what's to come. There's a story told of a woman who was at a hairdresser, and the hairdresser happened to ask her, "Are you going on a vacation this year?" And the woman said, "Yes, I'm going to Rome." Hairdresser said, "Rome? That's the filthiest city in all of Europe. They haven't cleaned that place up. You're not going to enjoy Rome." The hairdresser said, "By the way, how are you getting there? What are you flying?" She said, "Well, we're flying Air Italia." Air Italia? That's probably the crummiest airlines in the world. They've got old planes. They haven't redone the inside. It's going to be you're not going to enjoy that flight at all. By the way, where are you staying in Rome? "Oh, we're staying at the Hotel del Cielo." The Hotel del Cielo, that's the dump of Rome. I mean, even though it's close to the Vatican, it's just it's the lowest end of hotels you could probably find there. By the way, what are you going to be doing in Rome? "Well, we're going to see the Pope." "You're going to see the Pope?" You know, there's about 500,000 people in Vatican Square. Like, there's no way. If you're lucky, you'll get a tiny little glimpse of him, but, you're not going to see the Pope. So the woman left, and a few months later, she was back at the hairdresser, and the hairdresser asked her, "How was that trip to Rome? How was Rome?" She said, "They cleaned up that city. It was immaculate. It was beautiful. All the restaurants were wonderful. The people couldn't have been friendlier. It was just fabulous." And the hairdresser said, "How about that flight over there on that airline?" She said, "You know what? They bought a whole new fleet of jets, happen to have a maiden voyage on this large 787, and they treated all of the passengers to first-class food and beverage service. Couldn't have been a better deal." He said, "Yeah, how about that hotel?" The hotel just did a $140 million renovation. All the rooms were suites, marble bathrooms, high technology. It was the best place we've ever stayed in our lives. Really. And what about the Pope? Did you see the Pope? She said, "Well, you were right. There were like 500,000 people in Vatican Square, but this Monsignor came out of a door and decided he was roaming through the crowd, and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, every time there's a large gathering like this, His Holiness the Pope asked me to choose one person from the crowd to come in for a private audience. Really? And so, yeah, I actually went in and I had a face-to-face meeting with the Pope. And Bishop said, and what did he have to say? She said, well, the first thing he asked me was, who screwed up your hair? We get messages. When we plan these journeys and these trips, and we have hopes and expectations, we get messages sometimes from the outside, like the hairdresser. Not going to be good. Sometimes we get messages from the inside, and ourselves, even tell ourselves, you know, this isn't going to be good. We call sometimes those messages the self-fulfilling prophecies, where we actually set ourselves up for disappointment. And so I'm thinking about hope and expectations, and I've always had a difficult time with that particular grace or gift. Faith, we talk about faith, hope, and love. And faith, I can understand. There's that surrender in faith and a trust that God will be there or another person will be there. I can kind of comprehend faith. Love, also, an outreach, people caring about us, we caring about other people, maybe taking that extra step to pay attention to someone else. Understand that. But hope, I think, I've always had the most difficult time with. And one of my favorite spiritual writers has defined hope, and this may help you. He describes hope as that gift or that grace that allows us to rejoice and to be at peace in the midst of a life with unresolved issues. It's that gift or grace that allows us to be at peace and to live a life of peace in the midst of the unresolved issues, or issues that need closure but don't have the closure. And so it's a very dynamic, I think, type of virtue, type of grace, type of gift. It asks us to accept the fact that in the midst of turmoil, in the midst of the fact that things aren't exactly the way we would like them to be with a pretty bow on top and everything just resolved to our satisfaction, that we can still be glad and rejoice. And that's pretty tough. In that gospel reading, John is talking to his people and he's saying, you're hoping and expecting this Messiah to come. And this is going to be maybe a warrior king. He's going to be a person that's going to defeat the people that have oppressed you as a nation. He's going to be a leader that will give you a land so that he will resolve this type of uncertainty in the life of you, the Israelites, as a nation. So the unresolved will become resolved. And the people are looking at John saying, okay, we're hoping for somebody and you must be him. And John says, guess what? I'm not him. I'm just a flash in the pan. I'm just a little puff of smoke in the hurricane. Okay, there's someone coming after me, much greater. I'm not that person. What a letdown. But then the Isaiah reading and the reading that Paul writes to the Thessalonians, it's okay to have this unresolved circumstance. You can still rejoice always in the Lord. Can you find that inner peace? Can you find it within your spirit deep down to not only accept what is not resolved, but to actually be at peace with it and be a friend of it and be comfortable with the unresolved? I think all of us have an appetite for resolution. We look in our families. We may have children, we may have parents, we may have friends, we have relationships that aren't resolved the way we want them to be resolved. The kids aren't doing what they're supposed to do, the grandkids aren't where they're supposed to be. There's great disappointment and frustration, maybe and tension within our families. Can we find a hope that allows us to rejoice in the midst of that type of unresolution? That's the gift, the grace of hope. We look at our economy and we feel disappointed. maybe on a national level, but we also may look at our own economies, our private finances, and we may find disappointment and frustration there. Unresolved. Can we find the inner peace and the inner strength, the hope, to still rejoice as a Christian person, a Christian man, a Christian woman, in the midst of that which is unresolved? I think in all of our lives we have those issues. And the Advent journey, just like our personal journeys, can be one of frustration, always looking for the resolution, always looking for that closure, always looking for the completeness, or we can accept the gift of hope that says, maybe it's not exactly the way we want it to be, but I can still be at peace with it, and I can still rejoice, and I can still be happy. Have you been using the Advent meditation books? If you've done it every day, wonderful. If you haven't, there are still 2 weeks of Advent left. Again, when I handed those out, I said, let's get back to the basics. Use that tiny 5-minute, 10-minute meditation every morning or evening, whenever you have the time, to reground. Let us reground ourselves so that no matter what the unresolved issues are in our lives, we can find a certain inner strength and inner peace to accept the joy of Christmas, to live in the present, and to be a people of hope, and accept in a couple of weeks the true Christmas present.